Hi, my name is Elizabeth Harding, and I'm one of the community ministers at Second Unitarian Church. Today's session is going to be about advanced directives and having those hard conversations with our families and loved ones. There are three forms I want to talk about. The POLST form, physician orders for life-sustaining treatment, the 5 wishes form, and the medical power of attorney for healthcare form. But first and foremost, I want to talk about the importance of having the conversation with your family. It is the most important thing. The forms are there to help facilitate the conversation, because what they do is they highlight all the very specific things that people might want at the end of their lives. But having the conversation is often the really hardest part. So for the person making the decision and filling out the forms, what I want to say to you is that you are offering a gift to your family and your friends. Whoever you pick as your surrogate decision maker is not actually making the decisions. They are following through on the decisions that you have made for yourself. And it is really important that you fill out these forms and get this done while you are still fully capable of making your own decisions. It does not matter how much money you have when you fill out the form. It does not matter where you are in space or time, but figuring out what it is you want at the end of your life in terms of your medical care is one of the most helpful things you can do for your loved ones. As a hospital chaplain, I've been in the situation where somebody said to me, I don't actually know what they want. I just know that they want to be cremated. And that one thing is helpful, but all the other things are also going to be helpful. If you have questions about making the decision, or if you want more information about other people's experiences, I would really encourage you to read the book, Being Mortal by Atwal Gwande, Gwande. As part of this presentation, I'll have a little bibliography available at one point. And we'll also have pictures of all the forms at another point so you can see what you're filling out. So the first form I want to talk about is the POLST, Physician Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment. The POLST has replaced the DNR. So when we're watching TV like Grey's Anatomy or another medical TV show and somebody says, he's a DNR, what you might actually find is that he's filled out, in real life, we filled out the POLST, Physician Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment. So this form is very specific, and physicians developed it because they got tired of people having the trouble making decisions. The first thing that it asks you is whether or not you want CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. So this assumes that the patient has no pulse, is not breathing, cannot respond to his or her name or their name. And so the first box that you would be checking is, do I want CPR? Yes or no? CPR also means that you're selecting a tube that would help you breathe. It would go down your throat and it would help you breathe if you're not able to tell anybody anything. CPR is usually it's one of the first things we know that saves people's lives. And most of the time, it is exactly what we want to do. But as we get older, if we have a chronic illness or a situation where we don't want our life to be sustained, that is when we would click the box, when we would mark the box, no. When a person is really old and they have a chronic medical condition or a life-limiting medical condition, the challenge is that CPR can actually do more damage than it would for a healthy person. For an older person who has a lot of medical problems, sometimes it can break ribs, it can damage the body, and it also creates more medical problems later for the person. So if you choose yes, that means that the doctor will be able to put you on a breathing tube until you can return to making decisions for yourself. If you choose no, that means that they will allow the process of death to happen. So that's the first section on the POLST form. The second section is about medical interventions, and you have a choice. You get to choose comfort measures, limited interventions, limited additional interventions. So like heart monitor, medical treatment, antibiotics, IV fluids. Maybe they might transfer you to a hospital. And the third choice for medical interventions is intubation and medical ventilation. So again, that means putting a tube down your throat to help you breathe. So comfort measures means that you would allow the natural process of the body to die. You would not attempt to transfer somebody to a hospital unless the family really did not feel comfortable with them dying in the place that they were. The idea is that if you are choosing comfort measures, they would do everything in their power to make you comfortable. So that means they would give you pain medication. They would make sure that you were able to go to the bathroom comfortably. Sometimes that means giving a suppository to the patient. Limited interventions, again, focus on comfort. IV fluids might mean that you need water. You need something to help your body keep going. But the third one, intubation and mechanical ventilation, that might only be for a limited amount of time. It really depends on the situation. But that is section B on the POLST form. The section C means artificially administered nutrition. So that means that they would offer you food or water by mouth if desired. It does not mean that you can choose to not have tube feedings. They would not give you food through a tube with a hole in your stomach. You can also pick to have artificial nutrition for a period of time, like a week or 2 weeks. You could also choose long-term artificial nutrition by tube. So you notice that they have spaced out all the choices in the POLST to let you choose each specific one. Now, some people's faith traditions require that you offer food and water. Some people's medical situations means that if they're going to have food and water, it will actually be more uncomfortable for the body. When the body gets close to dying, all the organs begin to shut down. The person is not eating or drinking. They're not being as physical as you or me. They don't need the food or the water to do very active things. So I get a lot of questions about this because families are nervous that they're starving their patient. And the truth is that as the organs shut down and the body prepares for death, the body does not want food or water. It can actually create a situation where if a person has food or water and their body can't process the food or water, they could have a bowel impaction, or they could have a hard time going to the bathroom, and that could cause pain for the patient. And so when you think about all of these specific, very specific things, you have to decide, it's always a good idea to ask yourself the question, what would make me most comfortable at the end of my life? And sometimes you have to ask this question several times because your illness changes, or your wishes change, or your family's wishes change. But the great thing about the form is that it's an opportunity to ask questions. Section D on the POLST form is a documentation of discussion. So basically what that means is that the doctor or your other medical care provider would sit down with you and explain all of these sections, just like I am doing right now. And they're going to show who was there. The patient was there, a family member was there, friends were there. And then the last part of the form is a place for your signature. This is a legal document. Once you fill it out, it is the form that they are going to refer to until you make a new one. So you can always make a new one, but once you fill out the form and you make copies of it and put it with your doctor, this is what they are going to refer to when you are with your doctor at your next well visit, or if your doctor comes to your house. This is the form that they're going to look to. The PULSE is one of the most useful forms out there, and it is very helpful if you are a person with a chronic illness or a person with a life-limiting illness. If you're a healthy person like you or me, you might wait to fill out this kind of form. So that's the PULSE, the Physician Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment. The next form I'm going to talk about is the 5 Wishes form. The 5 Wishes form is a really great document because, again, it offers a way to have the conversation with your family. It helps you think about all the different things that you might want to talk about. On the very first page, it will explain what the document is for. It will show you what, states accept the 5 Wishes form. You can change the 5 Wishes form. Again, the most current form that you fill out and sign is a legal document, and then that is the one that your doctor and your family and friends are going to use. So the first wish is about choosing your surrogate decision maker. Again, I want to emphasize that you are not giving this person the power of God or the decision-making power to make decisions for you all the time. You're only choosing to give this person the ability to make decisions when you cannot make decisions for yourself. So an example of that would be temporarily if you are in a car accident and you cannot speak for yourself and you have filled out a 5 Wishes form. The person who is your surrogate would get a call from the medical folks and say, do you know what their wishes are? Can you help us make decisions? And that person would say, yes, I have my 5 Wishes form. I'm going to take it to the hospital and we can talk it through. So you might be temporarily put on life support while that happens. But once they come with the document and once you can figure out what it is you want, they will follow your wishes. So the person you choose as your healthcare agent, this is what the form says, is going to provide their name and their address and their phone number, good ways to contact them. The form also talks about if you change your mind, if you want to choose a new agent, then you fill out a new form and you go through the conversation again. The second wish of the 5 Wishes form is for the kind of medical treatment you want. So they are going to ask you to write out what life support means to you. What does it mean? Okay. And then they're going to say, if you are close to death, what are your choices? And they list all of the choices. There are 3 of them. And then if there's permanent and severe brain damage and you're not expected to recover, they're going to give you those 3 choices. If you're in a coma and not expected to wake up or recover, in another condition under which I do not wish to be kept alive. So the great thing, again, about the 5 Wishes form is that when you have the conversation with your family about what you want, this is very specific. It helps you think through all of the options. All right. So you might think that the 5 Wishes form and the PULSE form are almost the same thing, and they are. But because the PULSE form really helps out people with chronic medical conditions or life-limiting medical conditions, that is the form that the doctor is going to go to first. The 5 Wishes form is a really great option for having the first level of conversation with your family. Okay, so the third wish is, how comfortable do I want to be? And they give you lots of choices. So they'll give you examples of what kind of comfortable ways to keep you comfortable at the end of your life. Wish number 4 is how you want people to treat you. So that helps you talk about, if your family has to help you move to an assisted living facility, it kind of guides you in terms of looking for a good building, a good place to go. It also talks about personal physical comfort. So if a person is not able to hold their urine or their feces, like what kind of choices they want people to do, how they want people to keep them comfortable daily. And that is a really helpful thing for people to go into, because it's a very private thing. And it's important to feel comfortable and like yourself every day. It's important to have your quality of life be important, the way you want it, closer at the end of your life. Wish number 5 covers what you want your family to know. And so sometimes this can be a longer thing if you want it to be, and I can talk about other options as well. But it's to talk about, what you had hoped your family to learn, things about thinking about your legacy, thinking about the qualities of life that you think are more important. You can also use it as sort of a way to plan your eulogy, or think about your memorial service. It's also a nice place to write down your deep thoughts, your narrative about what your life is like. So your 5th wish is thinking about how you want to be remembered. So after you fill out the 5 wishes form, the next page is talking about the witness statement. And so that is the people who are not necessarily your surrogate decision maker, but the people who may have participated in the conversation, other family members, other good friends. They can be witnesses there. In some states, you do have to have the 5 wishes form notarized. That is something to think about when you fill it out. The last page actually also covers what you should do after you fill out your 5 wishes form. So that is also something really helpful to know. It also has a card for you to carry. The 3rd form that I want to talk about is a legal form, and it's a statement of Illinois law on advance directives and DNR orders. And over time, instead of saying DNR orders, it's probably going to say post forms, because as we talked about before, the DNR is being replaced by the post. So this form that I have covers what a living will is, mental health treatment preference. It covers the post or the DNR do not resuscitate order. And it also covers what happens if you don't have advance directives. So this form is really kind of more information based. The thing that I would encourage people to do is also to talk to a lawyer. Most lawyers offer a package when you're setting up your will or your trust. It is really important to have a relationship with a lawyer. There are some lawyers who will do this for limited funds or pro bono. My hope is that at some point we'll have a list of lawyers to refer to people. So the post form is a form that most often your physician will fill out with you. The 5 wishes form is something that you would fill out with your family and have a conversation about. And getting a lawyer and filling out a medical power of attorney form, as well as creating a will or a trust, is what is very helpful for families. So I'm going to talk a little bit about filling out a will or a trust. If you do not fill out a will or a trust, your estate, your finances, all your financial accounts, if you are married, most of the time, all that money will go to your spouse or your partner. However, there are some cases where this money is held in probate by the state. And so it becomes a legal issue to get access to financial accounts, to information, to safe deposit boxes, things like this. So when you work with a lawyer and you fill out all of these forms, you usually do it all at the same time, and the lawyer will walk you through it. The good thing about creating a trust is that it's a clear path for your finances and for your assets, your home, the belongings that you list that are important, all of those things, they don't go into probate. They go cleanly to the next person that you designate them to. So anyone can make a will. And in fact, there are online lawyers who work online who will do that. I'm working again, as I said, to find a list of lawyers who I can make available to the Unitarian Universalist community in Chicago area. However, you can make a will yourself just by writing out all the information. So things that go along with advanced directives that might be considered extra. It is really wise at some point to make a list of all your passwords. If you bank electronically, if you do any kind of computer work, if you want your heirs or your family or your loved ones to have this kind of information, you need to have a list of the accounts, the account numbers, the passwords, a clear permission statement that yes, you give permission to this person to access this account. That plus a death certificate plus your will allow them to access your accounts. If you don't do this, the person will be left with it will be really hard for them in the middle of their grief to figure out how to get access to all of these things. And I have been through multiple situations with bereavement clients and other family members where it just makes the process of losing someone that much emotionally harder and physically harder. Because if the person was part of a married couple for a very long time and they find out afterward that they have to do all this paperwork, all the taxes, all this, it does make their functioning during their grief that much more difficult. So planning ahead helps everyone. You will feel better about your situation when you have all these forms filled out. The person that you love, whoever that person is, will feel better about you filling out the forms. I cannot emphasize enough what a relief it was for myself to fill out all these forms and get them settled, and so that we have a clear plan. If you have children, you need also to make a legal plan for them. So that involves having a conversation with the person that you want to raise your children if you're no longer alive. And then you have to clearly delineate that in your will or your trust. If you're able to make a financial provision for the children that you have for the person who's going to take care of them, that would be a tremendous gift. So these forms are available to anybody regardless of their financial situation. I'm trying to think of what else I can remember to tell you about advanced directives. So again, you want to fill out a medical power of attorney, such as the 5 wishes form or the POLST form in addition. Oh, where to keep the forms. Okay, so you filled out your POLST, you filled out your 5 wishes form, you've set up your trust, you have all this information. So one good place to put all this information is in a safe deposit box in a bank, if you are able financially to do that. Another place to put this information is in, so you need to make copies for your surrogate decision maker. You also need to make copies for the members of your family who are taking care of you. If you are an older person and you're filling out all of these forms and doing all this paperwork for the first time, one of the things that I suggest, especially if you're living at home by yourself or if you're living in an assisted living facility, is to get a pocket and to put all the forms in a manila envelope and tape it right next to your door. And the reason why you want to put it on the wall right next to your door is because if you have an emergency and the fire department comes and they knock down your door, they won't be able to get at the forms. So you want to put the forms right next to your door, or you want to roll them up in a toothbrush tube, just like you would if you were, the toothbrush tube that you take on trips. and you can put them in your refrigerator, because in a fire, the refrigerator will still be there after a fire. You can also put them with a magnet on the front of your refrigerator. That's also really helpful. So keeping multiple copies, also because doctors work electronically now, you want to have your doctor, especially to have a copy of your POLST and your medical power of attorney form. And you want to have all these things available to you. And you have access anytime. Every 5 years, if you're younger, every 10 years, you might want to revisit those forms. If you make a will and you have children under 18, when they turn 18, you will need to revise those forms to cover that they are of age and can take care of themselves independently. If you have one child turning 18 and another child who's younger, then you get to ask the 18-year-old if they will take care of their sibling. I would encourage you to talk to your spouse and partner about which child you choose as the executor of your estate. Excuse me. I know some parents who did not talk to their child, to each other, and they both picked the same child as the executor of the estate. So that means that child has to be the executor for both parents, while the other child doesn't have any responsibility in the matter or say. So, you might think it's difficult to talk to a younger child about this, but children have questions about death all the time. And so I would highly encourage you to just say matter-of-factly, well, if I can't ever take care of you and daddy can't ever take care of you, or mama can't take care of you, Aunt Susie is going to be able to take care of you. And you might have to go live with Aunt Susie, but she will make sure that you are safe and loved, just like I love you very much. So depending on the age of the child, you keep it very basic. But keeping your forms, also if you have a chronic medical condition, another really great place to keep your forms in a toothbrush tube is in the glove compartment of your car. And that means that if you are in an emergency situation, your surrogate decision maker can take the forms to the hospital immediately right away. So if there's any doubt about what your decisions are, the surrogate decision maker can walk into the hospital and say, I know what she will want. So again, I want to emphasize, you are not giving the power of God to your surrogate decision maker. You yourself, once you fill out all these forms, you are choosing what you want, okay? And then you are allowing the surrogate decision maker to follow through on your wishes. And that is one of the beauties of having the conversation with your adult children or your friends or whoever is taking care of you. Once they know what you want, it is a huge relief for them. Then they know what to do in case of an emergency. And believe it or not, they may have lots and lots of questions about what you want, what kind of the situation is. Again, if you have a really hard time bringing up the subject, and I know these conversations can be very hard to start, the two books that I highly recommend are Being Mortal by Atwell Gwande, Gwande. His book was a series of New Yorker articles, and then it became a book, and then it became a movie. The other book, which is more funny and very, very, very frank and blunt about what happens to bodies after they die, is called Stiff by Mary Roach, R-O-A-C-H. She's a great author, but her book is very blunt. The first chapter begins with medical students and their anatomy class. So if you're having a hard time talking about with your family, I would say, let's read this book together. And in the conversations that will naturally happen because of reading the book can be very enlightening, and they can be very helpful. Those are the two books I recommend to newlywed couples when I do my premarital counseling, because I want them to have these conversations as well. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you developed a good bunch of questions for our Q&A. Again, if you feel uncomfortable about being in a group and asking your questions, feel free to write them down, and I'll be happy to talk with you independently about your individual situations.